I never wanted to be that neighbor. You know, the one everyone whispers about. The guy with a trench in his front yard and a medieval drawbridge blocking his driveway. But here we are, and it all started with a cup of coffee and a Lexus. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind of day that makes you believe in suburban peace. Birds chirping, sprinklers hissing in sync, and me, standing barefoot on my porch, sipping my coffee like a man who paid his mortgage and minded his business. Then I looked up and saw it, a silver Lexus, parked diagonally across my entire driveway. At first, I laughed. Had to be a mistake, right? A new Amazon driver? Lost teenager? Then I saw her. Linda Mayfield, HOA president, dictator in yoga pants, destroyer of weekend joy. She was standing on the sidewalk with her arms crossed, and that signature HOA smirk, the kind that makes you want to install flamethrowers on your lawn gnomes. Linda, I called out, you blocking my driveway? She smiled like a predator in a pantsuit. Good morning. Yes, HOA business. I blinked. I'm sorry, come again? We've had complaints. Your driveway doesn't meet aesthetic standards. Now, let's be clear, my driveway is concrete. Gray. Level. Absolutely average in every possible way. If my driveway were a person, it would work in middle management and eat plain oatmeal. Until we can complete an evaluation, she continued, I'll need to keep my vehicle here to prevent further violations. She said it like she was doing me a favor, like I should thank her for turning my property into her personal parking spot. And if you try to tow it, she added sweetly, that could be considered harassment under HOA guidelines. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Maple Glen Estates, where the lawns are neat, the rules are strict, and the president thinks she's the sheriff in a one-horse town. For the next 6 days, her car didn't move. Not an inch. I couldn't leave my driveway. Couldn't pull in. I had to park down the street like I was visiting my own damn house. And the letters started coming. Violation notices. Slipped into my mailbox like hate notes from a high school mean girl. Failure to maintain driveway accessibility. Unauthorized visual inconsistency. Non-compliance with HOA intervention protocol. I wish I were making this up. I called the HOA hotline. Guess who answered? Linda. I submitted a written complaint. It was denied by Linda. I contacted a tow company. They said, sorry, sir. HOA jurisdiction supersedes us unless there's an emergency. And Linda? She strutted around like she'd already won, waving at neighbors, acting like her car was some kind of mobile HOA enforcement vehicle. We're just making sure the community looks its best, she told Mr. Henderson next door. Some people don't take pride in their property. She said that, while blocking my entire driveway, with her luxury tank on wheels. I wanted to yell. I wanted to scream. But I knew better. Linda wanted a reaction. She fed off confrontation. If I snapped, she'd slap me with 10 more fines and have the board breathing down my neck by dinner. So I didn't fight. Not yet. I smiled, nodded, went inside, and started planning a war she'd never see coming. Because if Linda wanted to play HOA chess, I was about to flip the whole damn board. I wasn't angry. Not at first. I was focused. And if there's one thing I've learned from living in a community run by a woman with a God complex and a clipboard, it's that the only way to win is to know the rules better than she does. So I went to work. Not with shovels. Not yet. With PDFs. That night, while the neighborhood tucked itself into bed, I was 5 cups deep into black coffee and knee-deep in the Maple Glen HOA covenant, aka 132 pages of the most mind-numbing legal jargon you've ever seen. And buried in that mountain of nonsense, between restrictions on mailbox height and bans on inflatable holiday decor, I found it. Section 12.4, Security Enhancements. Homeowners may install temporary, non-permanent structures intended to improve property security, provided they do not present a hazard or violate municipal codes. I read it 3 times. Temporary, non-permanent, security. Bingo. I cross-checked it with city zoning laws, just to be sure. Then I called my buddy Greg. He's a lawyer who once helped his uncle sue a golf course for emotional trauma caused by row golf balls. The man knows loopholes like a Vegas card shark. Greg read the clause and said the most beautiful words I'd ever heard. Totally legal, man. If it's temporary and on your property, They can't touch you. And that's when the plan really came to life. It started as a joke in my head. Something ridiculous. Symbolic. Like flipping Linda the bird in Morse code. But the longer I thought about it, the more it made sense. What's the best way to block someone from blocking you? Build something she can't cross. That's when I thought. A moat. Not just a little trench. I'm talking a full 4-foot deep, 10-foot wide ring of suburban vengeance surrounding my driveway like it's a castle from the Middle Ages. And if I was going medieval, I wasn't going halfway. I was building a drawbridge. The next morning, I rented an excavator. The rental guy stared at me like I was joking. This for a pool or something? Nope, I said. It's for security. I smiled. He didn't ask again. Then I called in a few guys from a local contractor crew. Paid in cash. Told them I wanted a trench dug around my entire driveway. Nice and clean. They blinked. One of them asked, "You expecting invaders or just sick of the HOA?" "Yes," I replied. By sundown, there was a trench, an actual moat, for feet deep, 10 feet across, perfectly legal, completely on my property. And Linda? She had no idea what was coming. Linda showed up the next morning like she always did. Yoga pants, iced latte, clipboard of doom tucked under one arm like it was a nuclear launch code. She was expecting another day of passive-aggressive domination. What she got was a trench. I was already out front, casually sweeping some dirt off the edge of the moat, like I was preparing for a medieval joust. And there it was. Her Lexus, perfectly stuck right in the middle of my now isolated driveway, marooned like an abandoned cruise ship in a dry canal. Linda froze. She blinked at the hole, then at her car, then at me. "What is this?" she demanded, voice climbing with every syllable. I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Security measure. You dug a hole around my car?" "Correct. You can't do that." "Oh, but I can." HOA Section 12.4. Temporary, non-permanent security enhancements. Dug it yesterday. Fully legal. All within property lines. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Like a goldfish trying to speak English. "You trapped my car." "I didn't trap anything." I shrugged. "You parked on my property without consent. I built around you. Technically, your car is trespassing." "I'm the HOA president," she snapped. "And I'm the homeowner," I said. "And last I checked, HOA presidents don't get diplomatic immunity." She looked like she was about to combust. Her jaw clenched so hard I heard it pop. "You'll regret this," she spat. "The HOA will not tolerate this kind of behavior." I smiled and turned toward my garage. "Oh, I'm just getting started." Inside the garage was Phase 2. Blueprints, plywood, steel hinges, heavy-duty rope. What was coming next wasn't just a statement. It was suburban warfare performance art. I spent the rest of the day working on the drawbridge with the help of a couple local handymen who thought I was either insane or a genius. One of them, Dave, shook his head as we installed the base beams. "You really building a freaking drawbridge? You ever see anyone block me in again?" He laughed. "Carry on, King Arthur." By sunset, the skeleton of the drawbridge was in place. And the best part? I could raise it. Not with some fancy motor, just a good old-fashioned pulley system and a counterweight. Like a high school science project, except this one would drive Linda absolutely insane. And it did. Because the next morning, she was back. The following morning, I was greeted not by birdsong or sunshine, but by a fury storm named Linda Mayfield pounding on my front door like the FBI had issued a warrant for my soul. I already knew what this was about. She discovered Phase 2. I opened the door slowly, drawbridge plan still in hand, coffee in the other. There she stood, clip-clopped in wedge sandals, arms shaking, eyes wild, looking like someone who just walked into her own personal apocalypse. "You need to take that down immediately," she shrieked. I took a calm sip. "Good morning to you, too. That monstrosity is a hazard and a code violation and probably a fire risk. It's a drawbridge. This is a neighborhood, not a damn castle." I held up the laminated HOA regulation she apparently forgot existed. Temporary structure. Private property. Security improvement. Section 12.4. "Would you like me to highlight it for you?" She made a noise that sounded somewhere between a growl and a high-pitched dolphin scream. "You have 24 hours to fill that hole, remove that contraption and stop playing knight in shining armor, or I'll make sure the HOA finds you into the Stone Age. I blinked. Well, since we're already going medieval. And right then, in full view of Linda Mayfield, president of the HOA, I walked over, grabbed the rope handle, and lifted the drawbridge. The pulley squeaked. The hinges creaked. The platform rose, clean and slow, cutting off the driveway like the final door in a heist movie. I didn't even have to say anything. The silence was the mic drop. Linda turned shade of red, I'm pretty sure isn't found in nature. She stormed off, screaming about municipal inspectors and emergency board meetings. I waved. Have a nice day. By noon, the inspectors showed up. 2 guys from the city, clipboard in one hand, a sandwich in the other. They walked around the trench, inspected the bridge, took photos, asked a few questions, and one of them, swear to God, laughed. You actually build a working drawbridge? Sure did. All by the book? Every nail. He looked at his buddy. You ever seen anything like this? Nope. But I kind of love it. They filed their report, gave me a nod, and left. Linda? She watched from across the street, jaw hanging like someone had just canceled Christmas. That night, I grilled a steak, lifted the drawbridge halfway, and sat outside with a cold beer while the neighborhood slowly realized what had happened. By morning, everyone was talking. Mr. Henderson next door gave me a thumbs up. The mailman asked if he could film it. A teenager rode his bike by and yelled, "Dude, that's sick." And Linda? She didn't come outside because she knew the HOA war had shifted and I had just become a legend. By the end of the week, it wasn't just the neighborhood talking. The internet had entered the chat. See, while Linda was busy calling emergency board meetings and sobbing in her clipboard, I was uploading a time-lapse video of the drawbridge construction set to epic battle music. Just for fun. Maybe for legal documentation. I titled it, How to Handle HOA Tyranny Like a Medieval Lord. By morning, it had over 400,000 views. Reddit loved it. TikTok memed it. Facebook boomers reposted it with captions like, HOA's worst nightmare. And this man is a hero. I woke up to comments like, you're the Batman of suburbia. Some people build fences. This guy builds history. Protect this man at all costs. Meanwhile, Linda, she was losing her mind. She called for an emergency HOA meeting to declare my structure a threat to community values and a glorification of anti-authority sentiment. Translation, people like me more than her. A lot more. She showed up with binders, chouts, handouts, but no one cared, because by then, the entire neighborhood was fed up. The dude on the corner who got fined for planting sunflowers? He was now Team Drawbridge. The couple across the street who got letters about their unapproved mailbox style? They brought popcorn to the HOA meeting. Linda tried to rally her inner circle. Those 3 HOA diehards who still believed she was the queen of the cul-de-sac. But even they were waffling. Because nobody wants to fight a guy who just made HOA history with wood, rope, and pure audacity. And just when she thought things couldn't get worse, she tried to stop my contractors. That's right. On the day we reinforced the pulley beams and added side rails, Linda physically stood in the middle of the cul-de-sac, trying to block the truck. This equipment violates noise restrictions, she shouted. The driver got out, looked her dead in the eye, and said, Ma'am, I'm here on a legal job. Also, my brother's on the city council. She blinked. He waved. She backed off. It was like watching the final boss lose health in real time. By the time the drawbridge was complete, hinges oiled, ropes tested, rails installed, it wasn't just a personal project. It was a monument, a statement, a suburban statue of liberty. But instead of give me you're tired, you're poor, mine said, no Karen shall pass. Kids started calling it Fort Adler. One neighbor brought over a plate of cookies and asked if her grandson could take prom pictures in front of it. The drawbridge became a symbol of freedom, of sticking it to the petty tyrants of suburbia. Linda had unleashed a rebellion, and now she was losing the war she started. You'd think by this point, after being publicly embarrassed, losing the neighborhood, and becoming an internet punchline, Linda Mayfield would just back down. You'd be wrong, because when petty people lose power, they don't surrender. They sneak around in the dark wearing all black with bolt cutters. It was 2:38 a.m. I was half asleep when I heard it, a weird clinking sound like metal tapping wood, followed by a low grunt. I glanced at the security monitor next to my bed because, yes, I installed cameras. This is war, not a block party. And there she was, Linda, wearing what I can only describe as full suburban ninja attire. Black hoodie, black leggings, sneakers, and a headlamp strapped to her forehead like she was hunting raccoons. She was in the trench, with bolt cutters, cutting through the pulley rope. I blinked, paused the footage, then laughed so hard I almost woke the neighbors. But once I caught my breath, I did what any reasonable person would do when they catch a deranged HOA president vandalizing their property. I hit record. Then I picked up the phone and called the police. By the time officers arrived, Linda had just finished slicing through the last rope, causing the drawbridge to half collapse into the trench with a splintery crash that sounded like freedom being avenged. She panicked, tried to climb out, slipped in the mud, and crawled up the side like a confused possum. When she saw the red and blue lights, she did what all villains do at the end of the third act. She lied. Badly. This is a public safety intervention. I was protecting the community from a hazard. The officer just raised an eyebrow. I walked outside in slippers, holding my phone. Want to see the footage? I asked. One look at the video and Linda's fate was sealed. She was arrested on the spot for trespassing, destruction of private property, and being the worst neighbor in recorded history. Okay, maybe not the last one, but it was implied. As they put her in the back of the cruiser, she was still ranting about bylaws and overthrowing rogue architecture. And I waved her goodbye. By sunrise, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. She really went full Mission Impossible. Both characters. In yoga pants? Tom, you got that video posted yet? Oh, I did. Title: HOA President Caught Sabotaging Drawbridge at 2 a.m. It hit 1 million views in under 24 hours. The comments were glorious. This woman needs a Netflix docuseries. We need HOA reform now. Protect Castle Tom at all costs. Linda didn't just lose her title that night. She lost her reputation, her dignity, and, most delicious of all, her leverage. Because what she didn't know was that I had more than just footage. I had receipts. Financial receipts. You know that scene in every spy movie where the hero opens a secret folder, slaps it on the table, and says, "Let's talk about what you've really been doing." Yeah, that was me. Except the folder wasn't classified intelligence. It was HOA financial statements, misused funds, and a handwritten receipt for a luxury patio set mysteriously labeled community improvements. Let me back up. See, while Linda was out there committing crimes in activewear, I've been quietly assembling something far more dangerous than a trench or a drawbridge. Paperwork. I spent weeks requesting public records, digging through HOA meeting minutes, and interviewing past board members who stepped down for personal reasons. Translation: they got tired of Linda's dictatorship. And the stuff I found? It made the bolt cutters look like child's play. We're talking HOA funds spent on spa treatments and weekend getaways. An HOA-issued credit card used at a high-end boutique called Coastal Linen & Company. Consulting fees paid to a man who turned out to be Linda's cousin, who lives in Wyoming. We're in Ohio. What's he consulting on? Snow. I put it all together in a beautiful 3-ring binder labeled Linda's Greatest Hits, a corruption compilation. And I waited. Linda, still in full denial mode, called a community emergency meeting to discuss my pattern of aggression and refusal to comply with standard HOA regulations. Translation: she thought she still had power. She didn't know the neighborhood had changed. That night, I walked into the clubhouse like I was entering court with Exhibit A. Linda sat at the front like she was queen of HOA-topia, ready to serve judgment. She even brought a gavel. A literal, tiny wooden gavel. We are here to address Mr. Adler's gross violations of community standards. I raised a finger. Before we do that, I think the board and the entire neighborhood should see this. Thud. I dropped the binder on the table like a mic made of paper cuts and justice. The room went quiet. I flipped it open and began reading page by glorious page. $3, $4.50 to Oceanside Spa and Wellness. Labeled as board retreat. Only attendee? Linda, $8.42 to Wine and Vine, charged on a Thursday at 2 p.m. Not a board meeting in sight. And here, I held up a printout, a payment to Consultant Services LLC. Address? A residential cabin in Wyoming. Owner? Russell Mayfield. Her cousin. Linda's face? White as unsalted butter. "You're lying," she said, voice cracking. I tapped the pages. "It's all documented. I've already filed a formal complaint with the city auditor's office. And I've emailed every homeowner a digital copy." Half the room pulled out their phones. The other half stared at her like they'd just seen their HOA president turn into a Disney villain in real time. The board members, those who hadn't already mentally quit, looked at each other. "I motion to remove Linda Mayfield as HOA president," someone said quietly. Seconded. All in favor? Every hand went up, even her former bestie, Barbara. And just like that, Linda was out. By the end of the week, the city had launched a formal investigation into her handling of HOA finances. Her Lexus was towed, not by me this time, but by the sheriff's department. The community message board lit up with celebration posts and memes. One house put up a banner that said, "The Drawbridge has spoken." But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because Linda wasn't just removed. She was about to lose everything. You'd think after being publicly ousted, arrested, and exposed for embezzling HOA funds, Linda would just fade quietly into irrelevance. But Linda Mayfield was nothing if not stubborn. For 3 whole days, she didn't leave her house. Blinds drawn, porch light off. The Lexus gone, permanently this time, thanks to the county impound lot. The neighborhood? Thriving. Kids rode bikes up and down the street yelling, "Long live the Drawbridge." Mr. Henderson put out lawn chairs and played medieval music from a Bluetooth speaker. Someone even made T-shirts with a cartoon version of my driveway and the words, "Que seul Adler est, 2025. Then came the for sale sign. Linda was moving out. Apparently, the financial investigation was moving faster than she expected. She couldn't pay back the misallocated HOA funds, couldn't fight the fines, and couldn't face the neighborhood where everyone now referred to her as the bolt cutter bandit. The house sat on the market for 2 months. No one wanted it. Too much bad energy. Too many rumors. Too much HOA juju in the walls. Eventually, she sold it at a loss and packed up the last of her things on a cloudy Tuesday morning. I watched from the edge of my property, coffee in hand, drawbridge fully raised, like a monarch overseeing the final retreat of an invading army. She glanced at me once while loading the last box. That smugness? Gone. That gavel-wielding fire? Extinguished. She looked small. I raised my cup in a silent toast. "Farewell, Your Majesty." And then she was gone. With Linda out of the picture, the HOA couldn't hold itself together. Most of the board quit within a week. The rest agreed to disband the HOA altogether after a community vote that passed with 97% in favor. The other 3% didn't attend. No more random fines. No more letters about mailbox heights. No more rules about when your garbage bins can go out. Freedom. For the first time since I moved into Maple Glen, it actually felt like a neighborhood, not a kingdom. And me? I became a legend. The story of the trench and the drawbridge made national news. I did interviews, podcasts, even a spot on late-night TV titled, "The Man Who Moated His Way to Justice." I got fan mail from people all across the country. "You gave me hope, Tom. This story saved my HOA-ravaged marriage. Please tell me you're selling blueprints." The drawbridge became a local landmark. Tourists started showing up to take pictures. One dad asked if he could hold his newborn in front of it for good luck. I installed a little bronze plaque at the edge of the trench. It reads, "In honor of HOA tyranny. May it never return." One evening, as I grilled a steak in the backyard, music playing, sun setting, freedom in the air, Mr. Henderson strolled over with a cold beer and a smirk. "You know," he said, "I always thought someone would take her down eventually. But I never imagined it'd happen with a Moat." I grinned. Sometimes you gotta go medieval. We clinked bottles. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was just surviving suburbia. I ruled it.